Hi everyone, Mr. Pete's here. So I'm going to show you guys how to make three different types of textures using three different types of lines. Okay, so or several different types of lines. So there's actually four types of lines that you guys are going to be using. You don't have to include this on the homework, but there are straight lines, there are curved lines, there are zigzag lines, and there are dotted lines. If you put a series of dots in a consecutive way, those dots are going to indicate that there's like a line there. Okay, and so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to draw the textures of fur, scales, and a flat skin. All right, this is going to be for your animal project. So what I want you to do is approximately, you don't have to get out the ruler or anything, but I want you guys to draw like three different boxes, 1, 2, 3, and I want them to be about 2 by 2 inches. All right, and you don't have to use a ruler for this. This is just an activity just to practice. The square itself that you're drawing, I don't really care about. It's the actual textures I do care about. So I'm going to show you how to do this. Now notice I'm using a thin Sharpie. You can use a black pen, that's totally fine, but I'd prefer you don't use pencil. Only because with pencil it's easy to shade something in, but with marker and pen it's not as easy because I want you to stick only with lines. So it's really important that you're not shading anything in. You are going to be doing a series of lines. Now, the first box here is going to be fur. The second box is going to be scales, scales of a lizard or something like that. And the last one's going to be smooth. Okay, and I just kind of labeled them like this just so you can kind of see it like that. And so when we draw, we're going to start off by drawing fur, okay? And the first thing you're going to do is when you draw fur, you kind of want to keep the hairs kind of together. Okay, one of the biggest mistakes is students, I'll kind of draw the mistake off to the side here, you don't have to do this, is students will do a series of lines that are very orderly, okay, when they draw it. This is not correct. Okay, fur is actually very chaotic, meaning that there's no order to it. Some go left, some go right, some go up, some curve, some are straight, and all that kind of stuff. So, in order to keep this very simple, I'm only going to be using straight lines and curved lines. We're not going to worry about zigzags or dotted. If we keep it that simple, then this won't be as difficult as it seems. So in this box, we're going to create fur. Almost like this whole box is going to be sort of like furry. All right, so what you're going to do is I'm doing a series of straight and curved lines. And some of those lines are going in different directions. Some of those lines are overlapping each other. But what's important is you have to maintain the chaos. And feel free to kind of go outside of that as well. You don't have to stay inside the lines of the square. But you definitely want to try to practice this. You want to be patient. I don't want you to rush this because this technique is going to be important for when you do your project. So this is going to be graded. So you do want to practice this, and this is how you're practicing. Take your time, and you want to continue to add more straight or curved lines. Like this is a couple of straight lines, and then here's some couple of curved lines. And you'll notice I'm kind of doing a swishing motion. By kind of drawing swiftly, it also kind of gives it a little bit of movement, almost like the wind is kind of blowing over the fur too. So what I'd like you to do is make sure that you complete this entire square filled with fur, and I want you to do the best of your ability, okay? Now I'm going to move on to scales. Now, scales, I'm going to use a series of zigzags, but some of those zigzags are going to be curved. So we're really looking at only these two types of lines when we draw our scales. If we think of it that way, it really does simplify things. So here's what we're going to do. If I start off to the side here, I'm going to sort of do a zigzag, but the zigzags have like curved edges. So they're not quite sharp. They're more like curved, like softer points type of thing. And I'm really making sure that these are really the same size because scales are a natural pattern. Okay, and a pattern is an exact repeated shape. So you want to try and make this as accurate as possible. You don't want it to be chaotic. Fur, this is chaos. Scales, you want it to be a little bit more methodical. Okay, so I started with that side. Now, at the very points that are pointing to the right, I'm going to start at those points and I'm going to go up and I'm going to curve and come back and land. So think of this as sort of like a mountain. I'm going to do the top of the mountain and then land on the other top of the mountain. I'm going to do the same thing for each mountain. And then when I come to the end, like over here, for example, I'll just kind of go off to the edge of the square. All right, and then I will start here, and then I'm going to do another layer. And you'll start to see that these are like scales that are overlapping each other. Okay, animals that have scales would be like a fish, lizards, turtles, any kind of crazy exotic animals. Okay, and then I'm going to do my next layer. And you could see it's really the same motion every time. And I'm trying to keep this as consistent as possible. I'm moving on to my next layer. And again, I'm trying to work as neatly as I can. Now notice I'm not shading anything. It's all line work. That's really important. And I'm really taking my time here to make sure that I get this done right. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and just end the box like this. Okay, so now you could see it's almost like the scales sort of overlap each other. I'll go to the end here, go like that. Okay, so now you can see that this scale overlaps this one, which overlaps this one, which overlaps that one. Okay, sort of like a snake. What I do not want to see, do not do this. Okay, you really do need to practice. This is not right. You want to make sure you're doing this methodically. Okay, so those are your scales. Now the last one we're going to work on is smooth. Now if you remember when we were talking about Mark Summers and his scratch art, in order for him to get that really smooth, clean-shaven skin of that man's face, he used a series of lines. So we're going to go back and we're going to look at the straight line and the curved line. And so for smooth, I like to do maybe like a slight curve, and I'm going to draw another line, and I'm going to compact these lines really, really close together. Now it seems like this is going to look like combed hair or something, but it actually, when you look at it from far away, is going to look like it's a smooth surface. So animals that have a smooth skin would be like dolphins, whales, blobfish. There's all sorts of animals that have very smooth skins too. All right, and then you would continue this all the way down. And so this series of very straight, or like a series of consecutively slightly curved lines, or you can even just do straight lines too, will give it the impression that it is a smooth surface, as opposed to the texture of this will be very scaly, and which the texture of this will be very, very furry. All right, and I want to make sure that you guys fill all three of these boxes. Please make sure you label them like I did here, okay? And as soon as you're done, take a picture of it and turn it in. Okay, so I will see you guys soon. Happy drawing.